Hi, my name is Stephen Rue. I'm a neurosurgeon, a neuroscientist, and an electrical engineer. I'm also the Chief Medical Officer of Paradromics Corporation. I'm very excited here to talk to you today about the exciting work we're doing at our company to make a commercially available brain-computer interface to help people with neurological disorders. Here are my disclosures. So I wanted to first explain what a BCI is, or a brain-computer interface, and in particular, an intracortical brain-computer interface, because over the last couple of decades, there have been tremendous amount of research that has enabled us to take brain waves recorded out from a human or an animal and translate those into usable signals. That's really opened up this whole field of a brain-computer interface. And what they do is they essentially translate thoughts into actions. So for example, if you look on the slide here, a user like yourself has a thought. You want to do something. You have an intention. And then you unconsciously just execute that thought. But that thought has to be generated in the brain, and a pattern of signals are generated from those neurons. Those are then recorded by an intracortical array device that records the electrical signals directly from those neurons. Those are then sent for signal processing, just like in a stereo or even your iPod. You have analog signals are converted to digital signals. These digital signals are then sent into a computing platform that uses AI and machine learning and large compute abilities in order to understand what those signals mean and actually figure out what it's trying to say. And as a result, it will then also result in an action. And these signals that come out can then be used to control something like a cursor on the screen, a trackpad, drive around a robotic arm or a wheelchair, or it can be used to type on a screen. Or even more advanced these days, you can actually synthesize speech from someone who can't actually speak. So this is how a brain-computer interface essentially works. And again, the intracortical neural signals are what we use in order to read out the thoughts and actually decode them. So here's a statement that might resonate with some of you. People who do not have the ability to communicate well or quickly are often isolated and lonely. Having something like this, a BCI, will give them hope and opportunity to be more of themselves. And you can imagine patients who have sort of lost the ability to communicate or to move around have lost a lot of autonomy. Ironically, they feel isolated, yet they're surrounded with people and caretakers all of the time, but their ability to interact is quite challenged. Now, this statement might resonate with you, but what if I told you this statement was actually generated by a patient who is unable to interact with the world due to severe ALS? This is a patient who has a brain-computer interface device placed inside of their brain, reading out signals, and it was real time able to say what he wanted to say very quickly. And now he's able to interact with the world, keep a job, surf the web, and have a lot more autonomy than it had before. And this is all because of this basic science of decades have been done in intracortical brain-computer interface research. Now, many years ago, when we first started this research, we thought about this, but taking something from the bench, taking really exciting scientific discoveries and making them real, making them practical, where you could use them in your home in real time on an everyday basis is a huge challenge. It's not just a science, but there's engineering and other things that have to be addressed. And one of the key things that we talked about a long time ago about what has to be addressed in order to make these things a reality is they have to be durable. They have to last a long time. They have to work really well. For instance, if I could give you the ability to type, but you could type one letter every couple seconds or so, that would drive you pretty nuts pretty quickly. That's a pretty frustrating thing to do. So you need to be able to use these interfaces with a high level of performance. And finally, they have to be safe because really at the end of the day, anything we do, we want to make sure that the patients, especially ones who are very vulnerable, are able to have these things implanted in a safe and functional way. So we at Paradromics are working to develop a commercially available, high performance, durable brain-computer interface to address all those concerns we had about taking the science and turning into something that can be used on a daily basis. And by doing so, we hope that we can recover autonomy for people with neurological impairments, such as people with ALS, with stroke, and people with severe spinal cord injuries as well, too. Now, we know we can come up with a BCI device that works because of array-based research that has been done for decades. And this is the original array that recorded signals directly from the brain. We've leveraged that and developed a more advanced array design, which has takes advantage of the experience that we've had from the older rays in order to create something that we can use for our clinical patient benefit. So the Connexus BCI cortical module here is high resolution, has far more electrodes than the previous arrays did. They're very biocompatible, so they should last in patients over 10 years, we hope. And because the electrodes themselves are so thin, there's very limited damage to tissues as well, too. And we have shown actually in trials that we have run that the entire system has been working quite well for at least 6 months. And we also have electrodes that have been implanted for over 2.5 years, and they're still working very, very, very well, because we definitely have to have that durability, meaning that these arrays have to last a long time, because no one wants an implant or a system that's not going to last. The other thing you've noticed about the currently existing human-based brain-computer interfaces, they're actually external devices. They plug into the brain out into a computer system, but as you can see, there's a port in the skull. Obviously, this is not going to be practical. So we're designing a completely implantable device. So therefore, we don't have to address those issues. What our BCI system looks like is the following. There's a cortical module, which is the thing that's planted into the brain that reads out the signals. And there is some hardware there as well, too, that amplifies the signals. It sends it down a connecting lead down to what we call the internal transceiver. And the transceiver is the part that communicates with the outside world and sends all that neural data from the brain outside so that we can use that. And then this is now used with the whole external hardware with the BCI application, be it motor control, be it speech, be it texting, or whatever else. And that completes the entire system. And this entire system has been developed by Paradromics. The internal transceiver, to give you an idea, is placed under the chest. It's very similar to a pacemaker and many other implantable medical devices, so it's very familiar to surgeons and to patients as well. It's completely concealed under the skin, and one of the key elements of it, it is a very high bandwidth system. So no matter how much neural data is coming out of the brain, we will be able to capture all of that, not only for our current application, but hopefully from the future as well. You definitely don't want to create something that's obsolete as soon as it comes out. Another thing that's a strength is we want to understand how we can implant these things safely. So we've leveraged familiar and common brain surgery techniques. Almost any neurosurgeon should be able to implant one of these because they're very familiar with these with the brain surgery operations that we do every day. And we're sort of leveraging that experience in order to put these modules in safely and to remove them as well too, should a need arise. And we're able to put in these cortical modules very efficiently as well. And we're also able to alter the trajectory as necessary during the time of surgery so that so we can mitigate any safety issues once we do the implantation. And then we tunnel the leads down, which is something very commonly done by most surgeons. And then we place the transceiver into the chest cavity. And all told, we believe that the entire surgical time should take about 2 hours. And using familiar surgical techniques and an implant form factor, I believe, is very important for safety because we know the performance of the system should work well based on decades of research. We believe that the interface will be durable because we have a more advanced design for the electrode array that is leveraged on the experience we've had with the previous electrode arrays. And now we're also leveraging what we know about surgical techniques and what we know about brain surgery that happen every single day and understand what those risks are to mitigate the risk for patients in implantation of this system as well too. So this familiar surgical technique and the implant form factors facilitates making sure we're at the right location for the optimal location of the array, understand the risk profiles, which then leads to implantation and revision safety. And because this is a common technique, as a result, we hopefully will gain widespread adoption of the device as well too. And actually, this May, we recorded our first human data with our clinical partners at University of Michigan. We were able, for the first time, to implant our intracortical module. The implantation was very straightforward. It took less than 10 minutes to do, and we were able to record out brain signals, and it was successful, and it functioned exactly as we had intended. And this is a segue into where are we at now with the company and what our next steps are. And our next step right now is we're about to embark on starting our Connect One early feasibility study or EFS study that's regulated by the FDA for our Connexus BCI, and we should hopefully start that later this year. Leading up to this, we've had breakthrough device designations in 2023 and 2024 for use of our system as a speech decoding machine, as well as to control digital devices, meaning controlling a mouse on the screen or operating something else or interacting with different computers. We've also received total product advisory program designation in 2024 from the FDA, and now with their initial human study as well too, we're now going to lead into our multi-center IDE study planned by the end to start sometime in the end of 2025 to restore speech and communication in ALS and stroke. Now, I have to say, the first indication here is to help people restore communication using our BCI for people with ALS and stroke. And the reason for that is the following. It turns out a couple of decades ago, we had non-human animals with brain implants in controlling cursors on the screen and doing motor tasks. We have humans who have electrode arrays implanted in them who are doing motor tasks as well, things that restore your ability to interact with your computer or say move a wheelchair or use an arm. Speech is a much harder problem. Being able to decode speech, and now with intercortical array technology, we're actually able to decode what someone wants to say and even actually put some emotion into it as well too. This is a very challenging problem. We're setting a high bar because if we can actually make a BCI that will restore communication, being able to restore things like motor control things is a much easier thing to do as well. So the initial study we're going to do, the indication is to restore communication, but we have the ability to use it to restore speech, text, as well as cursor and motor control. And we're really excited and looking forward to this. So what is essentially our Connect One study? The primary objective of the study, the early feasibility study, like all EFSs, is to look at the safety of the surgical implantation technique and to look at the safety of the overall Connexus BCI. And this is the most paramount thing. If our system isn't safe, then it shouldn't be going to patients. And this applies for any system that's out there. We do feel very strongly, though, that we have mitigated many things, and we're also leveraging our understanding that this is going to be a safe device. The next step beyond that, the secondary objective is to check the feasibility. Can we acquire neural data with our system? And will the signals quality be stable over time? Again, we did this in animals, and it's shown to be true. We see no reason why that wouldn't be true in humans as well, too. Can we decode the intended actions from the neurons? From the neural data, again, we have decades of experience with intercortical electrodes saying that this should be possible, so we have no reason to think this wouldn't be true. And finally, is this going to be a useful clinical device or not? And the only way to know that for sure, despite all the evidence we have, is to implant it in humans, run our applications in a trial, and see whether or not it actually works as intended. And again, we feel very strong that this is most likely, but we do have to go through the trial procedure to do this. Who can enroll in the Connect One study? The inclusion criteria currently are for people with progressive neuromuscular disease or neural injuries who are wheelchair bound, who are unable to speak very well, and also they're local to the study sites that we have. But we're going to obviously start with this, and if this is successful and we're able to enroll patients and show positive benefit, we will then go on to a more pivotal trial as is required by the FDA. And based on those results is when we'll actually get one step closer to commercialization of the device. So in summary, what we're doing here at Paradromics is we are trying to create a commercially available, high performance, long lasting brain-computer interface to read out signals from the brain, to detect intention from various areas, to generate control signals to replace those the ability that's been lost. And really the goal here is so that we can recover autonomy for patients, for those many patients out there with neurological impairments. And many of you might be here listening on as well too, and appreciate everyone's attention. Look, it's an exciting time for brain-computer interfaces, and it's a very exciting time for our company as well too. And we like to see that small keys unlock big doors. And we invite all of you to join us in helping us open up the next generation of BCI in the future. So thank you very much for your attention here. If you have any questions or concerns, or you want to learn more, or just be part of our movement, please consider reaching out to us or using this QR code. And if you do, you'll stay up to date with our future clinical information and be contacted about the Connexus BCI interface and how things are going. So we're very excited about this. We're looking forward to helping many, many people in the future, and we're well on our way. Thank you so much for your attention.